Darien Coulter paused at the Mason Creek Bright Mart for a soda after varsity practice. He didn't know his regular evening would ignite. Two white officers rolled up with suspicion, cocked like a hammer. To them, Darien was danger in brown skin, not a 17-year-old just heading home. Their voices climbed. Tempers snapped. The pavement soaked in fear and humiliation. What they didn't realize, the boy's mother was Nia Coulter, FBI special agent. When she arrived, every badge went still. Before we continue, drop where you're watching from and subscribe. Tomorrow's chapter is one you won't want to miss. Georgia's humid night clung like a damp sheet as Darien pushed through Bright Mart's glass door. The bell pinged. Cold air washed his face. His jersey clung, still wet from drills. Fluorescents buzzed overhead, a harsh glow on empty aisles that looked like a scrubbed stage before trouble. "Evening, Mr. Jennings," Darien said, nodding toward the counter. Earl Jennings peered over bifocals, folding his newspaper. "Practice treat you right, kid?" "Pretty good. Coach says I might start next game." Sneakers squeaked on scuffed linoleum as Darien drifted to the coolers. He thumbed a text. "Be home in 10. Need anything?" Condensation fogged the cooler door as he grabbed a Sprite. His phone buzzed. Nia's reply. "Just you." "Safe, please." He smiled and snagged chips. Halfway to the register, red and blue lights splashed the windows, repainting the store in alternating stripes. Two cruisers rolled in, tires crunching gritty gravel outside. His stomach tightened, reflex from lessons his mother drilled. Keep calm, be respectful, know your rights. The bell chimed again. Deputy Cade Drennan strutted in, Officer Rourke trailing. Drennan's hand lounged on his holster. Anticipation sharpened his grin. "Robbery a few blocks back," he announced, eyes hooking on Darien immediately. "Suspect's a young black male, 6-footish. His lip curled. Well, looky here." Darien's pulse drummed, but his tone stayed steady. "Just buying a drink, sir. Came from basketball." "Sure you are, boy." Drennan paced around him like a circling shark. "Empty your pockets." "I've done nothing wrong," Darien murmured. "Ask Mr. Jennings." Earl cleared his throat behind the counter. "Officers, he's good. Comes in after practice." Drennan ignored him. "I said empty your pockets. Now." Officer Rourke shifted to block the exit. Authority stretched tight over nerves. Darien set down the soda and chips, then flipped out his pockets. Phone, wallet, lanyard key tag, crumpled practice schedule. "See? Nothing, sir." Drennan's smirk deepened. "Think you're slick?" He clamped Darien's arm. "Outside." "Wait, please." Already he was being hauled to the door. "Mr. Jennings, call my mom." Night heat hit him hard as they pushed him out. Drennan slammed him onto a hood, cheek pressed into warm, gritty metal. "Spread him." "I'm not resisting," Darien said, voice cracking. A few neighbors drifted near. Angela Rivas, still in scrub pants, lifted her phone, hands trembling as she filmed. "Stop moving," Drennan barked, though Darien lay still. "I'm not." Pain burst when a fist dug his kidneys. His knees sagged involuntarily. "He's resisting," Rourke announced, uncertainty wobbling in his words. Then came the taser, teeth of electricity ripping his muscles. He screamed. They flung him down. Concrete grated his cheek. Blood salted his lips with metallic heat. "Mama," he whimpered. "Someone call my mama." Drennan's knee pinned him as cuffs bit deeper. "Shut up, boy. Cry later," Drennan hissed. Angela's voice cut across. "He's a kid. This is wrong." "Back up," Rourke warned the crowd. "Police business." Earl stood in Bright Mart's doorway, fingers white on the frame, decades of careful silence locking his jaw. He couldn't look away from violence unfolding in his lot. They hauled Darien upright. Blood slicked his split lip. The jersey Nia saved for months was torn, smeared with asphalt and dirt. As they shoved him into the cruiser, he saw Angela still filming, fury and resolve burning steady. The engine growled. Earl shook his head slowly. They just made a colossal mistake. Angela stared at the blinking red light on her phone. Her thumb hovered over upload, knowing what crossed that boundary couldn't be taken back. Distant sirens thinned into the steamy Georgia dark, carrying a boy whose only crime was stopping for a sugary drink after practice. The town kept breathing anyway. In her quiet Atlanta apartment, Nia's pen skated across paperwork beside a humming laptop. Weeks of undercover notes on police corruption lined her screen. Her coffee cooled. The phone buzzed again, the fifth time in 20 minutes. 12 missed calls, 23 texts. Up top, a shared link. Police brutality in Mason Creek. Cold settled in her gut. Mason Creek, that's where Darien was. She tapped the link. Grain shed, then sharpened. Her mug slipped and shattered on wood. There he was, her son slammed into a cruiser. "No," she whispered, watching the pylon, the crackle of prongs. "No, no." Every cry felt like a strike. When the taser fired, Nia clapped a hand to her mouth, swallowing a scream. Blood on concrete, jersey torn, her boy calling for her. She moved before the clip ended, gun from the safe, checked by muscle memory, despite shakes, badge, keys, phone. Protocols marched through fury as she hit the stairs. Elevator too slow. She took 3 flights at a time. Her black, bureau-issued SUV chirped. Engine roared. Lights strobing. She fishtailed onto the street. 2 hours to Mason Creek. Too long. Knuckles whitened on the wheel. Memory flared. Coaching Darien on stop etiquette. Practicing yes sir, no sir until the words dulled. Preparation stripped by 2 badges and a rigged system. "Keep it together," she muttered, weaving lanes. "Think like an agent. Document everything." She called her supervisor, left a detailed log, then her attorney, then the Civil Rights Division. Each call crisp, professional, her voice a calm mask over molten rage. The Mason Creek Police Department hunched like a brick shoebox, peeling paint, flickering tubes humming behind the glass. Nia parked in front, emergency lights still dancing. Inside, the front desk officer barely glanced up. "Help you?" "I'm here for Darien Coulter." Velvet in Nia's tone. "You have my son in custody." "Visiting hours are over," he yawned. "Come back to post bail." "I'm not visiting." Her badge kissed the counter with a metallic slap. "I'm taking my son home." The gold flashed under fluorescence. Eyes widened. Phones hiccuped quiet. Conversations clipped themselves mid-sentence. The building held its breath as authority filled the room. "I'll fetch the chief," the officer stammered. Nia stood still, counting breaths, noting camera placements, name tags, the nervous shuffle of papers. Evidence everywhere if you knew how to look. Chief Charles Harlan arrived. Pressed blues, syrupy smile, never touching his eyes. Agent Coulter. Didn't know the Bureau cared about county matters. "Where's my son?" Each syllable came clean. "Your boy intersected a robbery investigation," Harlan drawled. "Matched a description. Became combative when questioned." "I watched the video." Nia stepped closer. "I want body cam files. Now." "Technical issues," he said. "Equipment malfunction." "Both cams failed simultaneously?" Her laugh sliced like glass. "Coincidences happen," he shrugged. "Once we sort things out, my son." Something in her eyes made him flinch. He nodded to a deputy for keys. They led her to holding. Darien sat hunched, tall frame folded small, blood drying on nose and lip. The ruined jersey stabbed her like a memory. The door clanged. Nia knelt, fingers featherlight on bruises, cataloging swelling by instinct, his skin cool, eyes distant. "You're safe now," she whispered, pulling him close. "They have no idea who they just set against them." Dawn smeared gray-pink across Mason Creek as they glided through emptied streets toward home. Every cruiser in sight made Darien sink lower. Silence pressed in the SUV, broken only by small winces when bumps found bruises. The ER report wrote in Nia's briefcase: contusions, mild concussion, bruised ribs, photographed, time-stamped, preserved. "They following us?" he whispered. "No, baby." She squeezed his hand. "But I'm checking." Her phone rang. Agent Shaw, FBI supervisor. She tapped the wheel button. "Agent Coulter," his gravel filled the cabin. "I'm briefed on Mason Creek." "Sir, I'm assembling a full report. Civil rights violations, evidence tampering." "Stand down," Shaw cut in. "This is not federal. Local jurisdiction. Do not make this personal." "With respect, they assaulted my 17-year-old, Nia said evenly. "They deleted body cam footage." "You're upset as a mother," Shaw replied. "Don't turn it into a federal flare-up. Use the channels." "Proper channels?" She laughed, bitter as burned coffee. "Chief Harlan's brother-in-law runs internal affairs." "That's an order, Agent Coulter. Back off." Her grip strangled the steering wheel. "Mom," Darien said small. "Maybe. Let it go. I don't want you fired." She pulled into their driveway and turned to him. Dawn made every bruise sharper. Her careful, kind boy. Neighbor's groceries helper. Patient math tutor. "Tell me everything," she said. "All of it. They never asked for ID," he whispered. "I tried to show my school card." Drennan laughed, said I probably stole it too. Nia swallowed heat. "What else?" "They kept joking about running," he said, eyes slick. "Rourke got close. Bet your mama taught you to run, huh?" Then they laughed like it was sport. "Did they Mirandize you?" she asked. He shook his head. "They kept hitting me even after cuffs. Said they'd plant something if I didn't confess." A knock rattled the window. Mrs. Langford, their elderly neighbor, stood in robe with a tablet hugged to her chest. Nia stepped out, body shielding the doorway. Concern lined Mrs. Langford's face. "I saw what they did." She raised the tablet. "Angela Rivas, my granddaughter, filmed it. Sent me the full original before posting. I made copies." Nia pressed play. Audio crisp. Slurs, clear as sirens. Cruelty deliberate. A high five after dumping Darien in the car. "It's everywhere," Mrs. Langford said. Twitter, Facebook, news, hashtag Justice for Darien. A news van turned onto their street, then another, then more. "Inside," Nia told Darien, gathering their things. "Thank you, Mrs. Langford. Will you give a statement?" The older woman nodded hard. "These boys in badges need reminding. This isn't how you treat people anymore." Inside, Nia settled Darien on the couch while reporters stacked outside. Phones pulsed with messages. Justice for Darien climbed nationwide. At her desk, Nia tethered the tablet and replayed the clip until fury thinned into focus. She noted badge numbers, nameplates, the mirrored glint of a dash cam supposedly down. The tells were everywhere. Pain meds finally unhooked Darien's shoulders. Sleep smoothed his face. He still lay careful to spare his ribs. Nia freeze-framed Rourke's smirk as he whispered the run taunt. "If they want dirty," she murmured, pulling case notebooks closer, "I'll show them an investigation done right." Years of civil rights probes sharpened her instincts. Patterns emerged as her fingers flew. Incidents buried, transfers shuffled, evidence missing, complaints quieted. She combed databases she'd curated in private, threading connections across counties. Afternoon sun blazed through the office window while she called sources. The TV droned until a familiar name cut through. Breaking update from Mason Creek PD. Chief Harlan at a podium, Silver hair bright under lights, expression curated. Security footage shows the suspect attempting to leave with unpaid merchandise, he announced. When approached, the individual struck Deputy Drennan. Grainy clips rolled, carefully trimmed. Nia's jaw tightened. The brutal takedown gone, the slurs gone. A narrative doctored clean. "Mom!" Darien called, voice small from the couch. "They're lying. I know," she said, grabbing badge and keys. "Stay here. Door's locked." 7 minutes to the station. She counted them, fury ticking with every mile. Outside, handmade signs sprouted. Justice for Darien. Stop police brutality. Reporters angled microphones like spears. Air conditioning slapped her as she entered. Rourke sat at the front desk, smirk blooming. "Help you, ma'am?" He leaned on ma'am like a joke. "I need Chief Harlan. Now." "He's in a meeting." She set credentials on the desk. "Tell him Agent Coulter is here about evidence tampering in a federal matter." His grin thinned. He dialed. "He'll see you." Walking the hallway, Nia clocked everything. The nods traded like coded taps. Drennan stretched in a chair with boots on desk, performatively unconcerned. Conversations cooled when she passed. Chief Harlan's office smelled like leather and stale cigars. He faced the window, hands tucked. "Nice show on TV," she said, closing the door. "Agent Coulter," he smiled. "I thought we were clear last night." "I want the full footage," she said. "Security. Body cams. Dash cams." Harlan's smile flattened. "Impossible. Technical failures." "Technical failures don't surgically edit clips to make a kid look guilty," she said. "Your son was caught stealing," Harlan countered, "by officers whose gear malfunctioned at a store whose owner already changed his story." Nia's thumbs tapped her phone, pulling the bureau database. Her face chilled. "The case files are already sealed." "That fast?" "Chief, who's helping you inside federal lines?" Something smug flickered. "I think we're finished, Agent Coulter. Don't let maternal feelings cloud professional judgment." She left with head high, mind spinning. The speed, the seal. This wasn't only local rot. Someone with federal reach was greasing gears. She drove to First Baptist on Malcolm Dexter Boulevard, Reverend Samuel Hale's stalwart ground for long fights. The old church wore its peeling paint like a veteran's scars. Inside, walls carried photographs, marches, vigils, victories. Reverend Hale's gaze was sharp, clocking badge and stormed expression. "Been expecting you," he said, nodding her into a chair. "Saw what they did to your boy. Saw their pretty lies tonight, too." "I need to know what I'm up against," Nia said. Hale sighed and produced a thick folder. 1987. James Wilson, 17. Resisted, lost an eye. 1995. Marcus Taylor, 16. Plant. 2003. David Reynolds, 15. Wheelchair after assaulting an officer. He spread clippings like a grim ledger, missing footage, sealed files, vanished whistleblowers. "How do they keep getting away with it?" Nia asked. "Because you're not fighting two uniforms," Hale said softly. "You're fighting the architecture that shields them. Same judges signing warrants. Same prosecutors passing. Same federal hands sealing the cabinets." She left heavier but clearer about the mountain she had to climb. Dusk swallowed Mason Creek on her drive home. The house was dark, but for Darien's light. Glass exploded. Living room window shattered. Nia drew and moved, breath a metronome. A rock lay among glittering shards, rubber-banded note tied around it. She unfolded the paper with steady hands. Leave town or lose your badge. Upstairs boards creaked, Darien stirring. "Mom, what was that?" Nia eyed the threat, then her Glock, its weight an old promise. She pictured other sons, James, Marcus, David, and the systems that failed them. "Not this time," she breathed, grip firming. A fight had found their doorstep. She would not flinch. 2 days later, fluorescent lights at Atlanta Medical Center cast chalky shadows across Darien's bruises. In the waiting area, Nia scrolled case notes when her phone buzzed. Administrative Services FBI. Agent Coulter, your clearance is temporarily suspended pending review. Nia's jaw squared. On what grounds? Interference and potential misuse of federal resources. The call died. Another buzz. Lucas Train, her undercover partner for 5 years. Trusted once. Now his tone felt manufactured. Heard about the suspension, he said too casually. Let Mason Creek go. I'm trying to help. Nia's voice stayed level. Like sealing the case files? That kind of help, Lucas? You know how it works, he said. Small town politics. Let it sleep before what? Silence. A swallow. Before you lose everything you built. Think of Darien. He needs his mother employed, not... Don't you dare leverage my kid, she said, voice iced. What did they offer you, Lucas? Promotion? Cash? Nia, please. You're not thinking straight. She hung up, suspicion confirmed by his nervous cadence. He wasn't warning. He was threatening. The doctor called Darien's name. He limped toward the exam room, shoulders tense. The bruises would fade. What snapped inside him, the trust, wasn't so simple to mend. Text from Reverend Hale. Meet at Morales Media. 2 p.m., bringing someone you should meet. 2 hours later, Nia pulled into a converted warehouse downtown. The sign, Morales Independent News Network. Inside, exposed brick and award clippings. Tessa Moreland, early 30s, sharp-eyed, laptop stickered with causes, looked up as Hale introduced them. What happened to your son isn't random, Tessa said, skimming tabs. I've tracked Mason Creek PD for years. Look. Charts bloomed. Arrest spikes, complaint clusters, missing evidence streaks. 10 years of targeted brutality, always against young black men. Footage always lost, always justified. How? Nia asked. Money, Tessa answered, pulling financials. Civil forfeiture bloats budgets. Slush donations appear. Someone pays to keep lids tight, Tessa said. And someone in the bureau helps, Nia added, Lucas's call ringing in her memory. Exactly, Tessa nodded. But with Darien, they miscalculated. They didn't realize who his mother was. The window's open if we're fast. Back home, files colonized the dining table. Darien stayed with his aunt, safer for now. Lightning fanned outside while Nia cross-referenced names. A trio of deaths flagged her screen, each labeled overdoses. Young black men, each had prior contact with Mason Creek PD days earlier. Drennan and Rourke repeatedly appeared like fingerprints. Marcus Johnson, 19, found in his car with a lethal fentanyl dose, dashcam files corrupted from his last stop. Deshaun Williams, 17, overdosed after a night in lockup. Holding cell camera malfunctioned. Andre Thomas, 20, dead at home. Body cam from a wellness check by Drennan and Rourke went missing in transfer. Patterns screamed. This wasn't random cruelty. It smelled like murder disguised as tragedy. Photos of the boys stared back. Bright smiles, futures clipped. Nia glanced at Darien's medical photos. Bruise galaxies, taser marks, terror caught on his face. Same officers, same stamp, same erasure. Thunder cracked. She stood at the window, jaw set. Her reflection met her gaze. Agent and mother fused. You picked the wrong family, she said, voice ironed flat. Lightning threw shadows across her files. She snatched her phone and dialed. Tessa, I found 3 deaths. Same duo. We need to connect them. My office, first thing, Tessa said. And watch your back. People who expose this kind of rot suffer accidents. Call ended. Nia studied the faces again. boys turned statistics by a system engineered to protect its own. Dawn thinned the night as her SUV drifted into Maggie's cafe lot, a neon open pushing through gray light. Tessa already waited in a corner booth. "You haven't slept," Tessa said, sliding a steaming mug across. "Didn't try," Nia admitted. "Every time I blink, I see their faces." "And Darien." "We can get the footage," Tessa said, swiveling her laptop, blueprints of the station. "There's an auto-upload backup to the town's central server. They overlooked something." "How sure?" Nia asked. "Source is the IT guy, 10 years in, hates what he's seen. Too scared to talk until now." Tessa pulled up an email. Claims a copy sits in evidence locker B7, an old storage room nobody babysits. The bell over the cafe door chimed. Two seniors shuffling in. "First," Nia said, "we get Earl Jennings on record before they spook him." The Bright Mart looked smaller in daylight, like a stage after curtain call. Earl stood behind the counter, face tight with worry. "We're closed for inventory," he called reflexively. "Mr. Jennings," Nia said gently, "we need to talk about my son." "I already told police everything," he muttered. "You told them what they wanted," Tessa replied, setting a small camera on the counter. "We need the truth." Earl stared at the spot where Darien had been pinned, then met Nia's eyes. "That boy's good. Known him for years. Always polite. Always pays." "They came hunting," Earl said, voice breaking. "Laughed when they spotted him. Called him names I won't repeat. I tried to speak. They said they'd find reasons to shut me down." Tessa recorded as he detailed the slurs, the unprovoked force, the laughing. "Then they returned, took every drive, every backup. Said if I had copies anywhere else, they'd yank my license. 30 years here, this is all I got." Nia slid a card across. "When this breaks, you'll need protection. Call anytime." Outside, Tessa checked her phone. "Source says evidence room is barely watched at night." "Agent Coulter." A young patrolman approached. "Chief Harlan requests you at the station. Says it's about your son's case." Nia and Tessa traded a glance. Perfect diversion or clever trap? "Tell him I'll be there in an hour," Nia said. The officer nodded and left. Tessa grabbed Nia's sleeve. "It's perfect. They'll watch you while I hit B7. That evening, Nia sat in Harlan's office while he droned on about procedure and patience. Her phone buzzed once. Tessa in position. "Your son's situation is complex," Harlan said. "Multiple witnesses report aggression." "You mean the witnesses I'm barred from interviewing?" Nia cut in. "Or the statements that evaporated like your body cam files?" Another buzz. "Found B7 going in." Harlan leaned forward, smile slipping. "You're emotionally compromised. Maybe take some time." Third buzz. Smoke. Alarm tripping. Nia rose as shouts ricocheted down the hall. Officers sprinted past the doorway. Harlan's radio crackled. "Fire in evidence room, east wing." She moved with the current toward the smoke. Tessa stood outside, face gray with soot, filming from a safe pocket as firefighters blasted foam through a door flowering flames. The chief of the crew stepped out, shaking his head. "Electrical fire. Everything's gone." Timing was surgical. "They're erasing footprints," Nia said, throat flat, burning the story down to ash. Hoses roared. Smoke clawed skyward. Nia watched what was left of truth curl black. Tessa coughed, camera steady. "They're cleaning house." "Then we stopped being polite," Nia said. Sirens wailed. Commands snapped. She was already mapping next moves. Somewhere someone else had copies. Someone else had seen enough to talk. They just had to find that person first. At dawn, Nia hunched over her laptop at the kitchen table, eyes sandpapered. Coffee cups mapped her night. Darien slept upstairs, bruises souring to yellow-green. Her phone buzzed. Derek Lynn, old tech ally. "Tell me you've got sunshine," she answered. Keyboard clatter hummed behind him. "Maybe," Derek said. Remember the shadow backup I put on the Bureau's Georgia sites? Mason Creek's municipal network piggybacks that infrastructure? Nia sat straighter. You're saying, before that room burned, all files mirrored to a secure server. Standard loss prevention. Now I have to sift thousands of encrypted ghosts. Can you do it remotely? Already am, but listen, if this traces, we could both take federal hits. They beat my kid, Derek. They're masking homicides. A beat, a sigh. Give me an hour. Don't use normal comms. Check signal. She paced for 45 minutes before the encrypted chime finally arrived. A link. Derek's message. Found it. Fragmented but salvageable. Get somewhere safe. Nia pinged Tessa. Minutes later, they parked 2 towns over in a corner booth far from windows. Tessa tunneled through the secure link. It's big, she breathed. Multiple feeds, timestamp logs, radio chatter. The first file stuttered open. Brightmart's security feed. Grainy but readable. Darien entered, nodding to Earl. Minutes later, Drennan and Rourke. Crank audio, Nia said, throat tight. The drawled slurs came through clear. The unprovoked menace, the spike of force, the officer's laughter skimming over Darien's cries. This is it, Tessa whispered. It shows everything they denied. The picture buckled. Blocks of pixels, swallowed frames. Audio dissolved to static. No, Tessa typed furiously. Corruption during the fire nicked the backup, but the opening proves targeting and excessive force. It wrecks their story. They downloaded every scrap, locked it down. On the street, 2 unmarked Crown Vics prowled. Get in, Nia said, sliding behind the wheel. The unmarked cars tailed loose. She looped wide, mixing turns until the shadowing felt undeniable. Near Tessa's building, she parked a block away. They're on your place, Nia said. You should leave town. Tessa squared her shoulders. No, I'm fighting for more than Darien. For Marcus Thompson, dead in custody. For Jamal Wilson, resisted until breath stopped. For every kid without a Nia. She met Nia's eyes. I'm staying. The cars slid by again, slow sharks cutting circles. Then we do it smart, Nia said. Upload anonymously. Proxies. Let it spread before they can smother it. They worked from Tessa's laptop, routing through layers. The file title was Spare. The Truth About Mason Creek Police. Ready? Tessa asked, finger hovering. Nia pictured Darien's torn jersey, Earl's fear, 3 boys who didn't get home. Do it. The bar crawled forward. Complete. 5 minutes. Quiet. Then 10 shares. 100. Comments surged. Local outlets pinged it, then national desks. Nia's phone erupted. Texts, mentions, calls. Justice for Darien flared again, now anchored by hard footage. Look, Tessa said, tipping the screen. 1 million views in under an hour. They can't bury it. Too many have seen. Outside, unmarked sedans circled, oblivious to detonation. Truth outran them, streaking across timelines, punching through algorithms. Consequences would come, threats, tactics, dirt. But watching the counter tick and feeling the ground swell, Nia tasted something she'd refused to name since the parking lot. Hope. Imperfect evidence cracked their wall. Through that crack, she would ram the whole structure down. Barely 3 hours later, the sheriff's office pushed its definitive cut. Nia watched, jaw locked. Darien framed as aggressive, shoving Drennan first. The footage looked pristine. Too pristine. This is ridiculous, Tessa said. Lighting's wrong. Shadows don't match. Timestamp format isn't even theirs. It's patched together. They had produced a counterfeit truth, but harm spread anyway. Neighborhood Facebook groups knifed apart. The Mason Creek Community Forum split into camps. People who'd seen Angela's original versus those sharing the tidy official narrative. Shaw's name flashed on Nia's phone. Agent Coulter, he said. Voice coiled. My office. Now. She braced for the next swing. 2 hours to the Atlanta field office. She spent them rehearsing arguments that wouldn't matter. Inside, Shaw didn't glance up from a manila folder. Her personnel file. Sit, he said. She remained standing. Not a request. With respect, I'll stand. He met her eyes. You're suspended. Effective immediately. Badge and weapon. Desk. On what grounds? Interfering with local investigation, unauthorized database access, leaking confidential materials. Need I continue? They brutalized my son, which is why you should have recused yourself, he said, softening an inch. You're one of our best, but you compromised ongoing matters. Mason Creek needs delicate handling. Is that what we call cover-ups? Badge, weapon, Shaw said. Don't make this worse. She set them down deliberately. You know what's happening is wrong. What I know is you're emotional and not objective. Go home. Let the channels work. Nia pictured those channels, slow, quiet, and suffocating, until the files sank into administrative black water. The drive home dragged. 20 minutes out of Mason Creek, a black and white slid into her rear view, steady, predatory. Nia set her jaw, eyes on mirrors, mind already cataloging plates and angles. She'd been stripped of badge and gun, but not the one thing that mattered most. She still had the truth. Truth and a city finally watching. She breathed once, twice, hands steady on the wheel. The cruiser kept its easy distance, like a dog that hadn't decided to bite yet. Nia counted the seconds between lane changes, the stutter of its turn signal, the subtle games cruisers play on long stretches. At home, she eased into the driveway, noting shadows, listening for the wrong creak. The cruiser rolled on. Inside, she checked locks, then Darien, sleeping, breath even. In the kitchen, her phone bloomed with messages. Civil rights attorneys, state representatives, journalists, mothers who'd buried sons. The servers were groaning. The story was moving. Derek pinged on Signal, working through more fragments. Might retrieve dash cam reflections that mirror body cam angles. Also, careful, the sheriff's digital forensics unit is flailing. They'll look for your ingress. She typed back, We're layered. Keep digging. He replied with a single thumbs up and a string of encrypted file names. Tessa sent a burner number and a list of sympathetic editors. Hale forwarded clippings of past cases with matching footprints. Earl left a short voicemail, voice trembling but resolute. I'll testify, Agent. 30 years at that counter. I won't die a coward. Nia saved it to 3 different encrypted folders. She scrolled another clip, Angela's original live stream. The crowd's gasps. A child asking, why they hurting him? A woman hoarse, because they can. Nia closed her eyes, inhaled, exhaled. She pictured a courtroom, not the kind that devoured truth, but one anchored by relentless facts and a jury that actually listened. They would argue chain of custody, try to poison the well. They'd smear Darien, grades, friends, a joke tweet. She could hear it already. So she made a list, exhibits, affidavits, expert testimony on video spoofing, forensic analysis of timestamps, masked armed traffic cam backups, phone geolocation pings. She didn't plan vengeance, she planned proof. Then came the knocks. 1 reporter, then 3, then a tangle of microphones. Nia stepped onto the porch. My son was assaulted without cause, she said, voice calm, language surgical. We are cooperating with lawful authorities. We ask the community to remain peaceful and persistent. She walked back inside to keep building. Her inbox lit, State AG's office monitoring developments. A federal civil rights attorney. We'll file preservation letters tonight. A college teammate of Darien's. Coach is behind you. A stranger's line. My boy didn't come home in 2011. Don't stop. Nia saved each message. Hope mattered most when it arrived from strangers. Derek dropped another packet, enhanced frames showing Drennan's hand on his taser before a single command, a reflection in the store's window catching Rourke's grin, a radio text ping with a racial slur shortened to code. Each bit a stitch in the narrative, enough stitches and the whole seam would hold. Tessa reported the sheriff's office pushed takedown notices. Platforms pushed back. Newsworthiness doctrine. They're rattled, Tessa typed. Good, Nia replied. Angela finally texted, hands still shaking. I'll testify. I kept the original on a separate phone. They won't find it. Nia answered, You're brave. We'll protect you. We're doing this together. Harlan held another conference, framing everything as media distortion and out-of-town agitators. The courthouse steps filled with hand-painted signs and bottled water. Reverend Hale prayed through a bullhorn, steady, unsentimental. Seek truth, demand accountability. Keep your neighbors safe. The chant caught and rolled like far thunder across courthouse bricks. Night fell again. Nia spread exhibits across the table, cross-checked Derek's hashes, logged chain of custody for each file in duplicate. She labeled an envelope for Earl, another for Angela, a third for Mrs. Langford. She wrote Darien's name on a fourth, then folded the paper like a promise she intended to keep. In Mason Creek, unmarked sedans idled outside Tessa's place. She streamed the street on a cheap camera, audio muted, upload routed overseas. If they kick the door, the world sees, she texted. Nia answered, switch locations every 2 nights, leave decoys. If you spot the same plate twice, we pivot. They ran on coffee, adrenaline, and community casseroles. Love passed in aluminum trays. Darien ate quietly, eyes shadowed but determined. I'm not letting them call me what I'm not, he said finally. Nia squeezed his shoulder. They don't get to name you. The house exhaled. Outside, cicadas droned like steady drums. The next afternoon, a sympathetic state senator called. We're drafting a letter to DOJ. It's not the world, but it's a door. We'll walk through, Nia said. She hung up and checked the window. Another cruiser on slow patrol. Let them circle. Let them count minutes. She had different clocks now. Angela's video crossed 3 million views. The comments turned from shock to logistics, calls for boycotts, court watch signups, pro bono rosters. A digital army assembled itself. Tessa mapped a timeline thread, pinning each lie beside a document. Reverend Hale organized a teach-in on rights. Earl brought coffee for volunteers, voice finally steady. Nia drafted a preservation demand for every device within PD control, copied municipal IT, county council, and the state archives. She added a paragraph about sanctions for spoliation. She didn't bluff. She edged them toward a courtroom where excuses die. Derek pinged, pulling dashcam mirrors now, sending when stabilized. She opened a fresh file. United States via's pattern and practice, Mason Creek. Not wishful, blueprint. Sections for excessive force, discriminatory policing, evidence destruction. She left dates blank on purpose. They'd fill themselves. Darien watched from the doorway, chin high. How long will this take? As long as it has to. 3 hours in, the sheriff's feed blasted their faux pristine video again. This time, Nia caught a frame mismatch a rookie editor would hide, 2 frames of wrong clock font. She clipped it, annotated it, and pushed it to 3 outlets at once. A newsroom DM'd back, "We see it. Running analysis." Local debates snarled harder. Neighbors breaking with neighbors, barbershop arguments spilling onto sidewalks. But the center of gravity had shifted. Papered lies strain when a million strangers watch. Tessa wrote, "We don't need unanimous. We need undeniable." Nia smiled at that. Truth doesn't need applause. It needs a clear lane. Shaw didn't call again. Maybe he'd done all the damage he could for now. Maybe he was waiting to see which way the wind blew. Either way, Nia stopped caring about inside games. She cared about something older, naming a wrong so precisely that even cowards had trouble looking away. She stepped onto the porch at sunset. Protesters marched by, quiet, stubborn, present. Someone handed her a bottle of water. She raised it in thanks. Across the street, a child on a scooter waved at Darien through the window. Simple, brave. Nia waved back. The heat settled, but determination did not. Back inside, she synchronized drives again, then opened her notes. Tomorrow, subpoenas. Tomorrow, more interviews. Tomorrow, harder questions for people who like easy lies. She smoothed the edges of a photograph. Darien at age 10, gap-toothed, holding a tournament medal like it weighed a pound. Keep breathing, she whispered, because breathing was the point after all. Breathing without fear, a siren might end it. Breathing without shrinking in a store. Breathing on a sidewalk, in a car, at practice. Nia clicked her laptop closed. The house settled. Out on the road, another cruiser idled, then crept forward like a shadow. Let them watch, she murmured. Let them count steps. In the absence of her badge, she'd built another kind of shield. Community, records, light. Light makes rot scurry. She glanced at Darien sleeping, bruises fading to a map of where they'd been. Tomorrow would be heavier. So would they. Morning would bring more cameras and more whispers, more doors cracked open and a few slammed shut. She couldn't control any of that, but she could keep the truth moving, inch by inch, frame by frame, witness by witness, until even the uniforms looked away first. The engine's hum faded into daybreak. It hugged her bumper, high beams stabbing the mirrors. Nia held the limit, hands steady at 10 and 2. The cruiser slashed past, then dove in front to clip her hood, provocation masquerading as patrol. She knew the playbook: rattle, escalate, capture. It peeled off, leaving the warning, "We're watching." She rolled into her driveway under an orange wash of sunset. Across the street idled a familiar gray sedan, Lucas Train's government issue. He sat on her steps, eyebrows arranged into concern. "Heard about the suspension," he said, voice soft. "Shaw's wrong. This whole thing stinks." Nia studied every twitch. 6 years of stakeouts, wiretaps, and doors kicked together. She'd trusted him with her life. Now she clocked the micro-tension at his eyes and the collar check, his tell before a lie. "Come in?" she offered lightly. "Could use a friendly face." He paced while she brewed coffee, rehearsing sincerity. "Maybe backing off is wiser," he suggested. "Let the temperature drop." He glanced around. "You didn't keep the original station footage, right?" "Lost in the evidence room fire," she lied, voice smooth. "I'm out of moves, Lucas. They beat me." His shoulders eased. Sometimes the system works better inside. They traded small talk for an hour, his questions feathered with care, hers threaded with practiced defeat. When he finally left, she waited 3 minutes, then slipped out the back. Earlier, while looking for her keys, she'd magnet-clipped a tracker to his wheel. The dot on her screen drifted north. Nia trailed in her old Honda, headlights off along Pines. The signal stopped at a lake cabin, listed as Chief Harlan's weekend hideaway. She tucked her car behind scrub, phone recording. Through the window, Lucas handing a fat folder, bureau style, to Harlan, who returned an envelope. Counted cash glinted. She zoomed tight, faces, hands, the practiced cadence of an old transaction. Harlan's satisfied half-smile, Lucas flipping bills with muscle memory, the comfortable handshake. "Got you," she whispered, catching Lucas's profile clean as daylight. Crickets sawed the quiet. Water lapped the dock. She waited until both cars vanished. Walking back under starlight, her suspension felt less like punishment, more like license. They thought sidelining her neutered the threat. Instead, it untethered her from protocols they'd weaponized. She could move faster now, off the grid, no approvals or fragile chains of custody for them to sabotage. Before dawn, Contingency lists sprinted through her head. She canvassed locks, windows, the street's sleeping silhouette. Morning threaded pale through curtains when she touched Darien's shoulder. Up, baby. Pack light. He blinked through fading bruises. I don't want to leave you. They're not breaking me, she said. Gear 2. Patricia's boy plays. While Darien zipped bags upstairs, Nia ghosted room to room, scooping documents, birth certificates, school and medical records, redundant sets for redundant plans. Survival wasn't paranoia, it was preparation. Humidity lay thick outside when she stepped onto the porch, keys in hand, then froze at the SUV's brutalized silhouette. All 4 tires hung in rubber ribbons, paint slashed with jagged red. We warned you. Her hand reached instinctively for a holster that wasn't there. She scanned the block, which lights were new, which cars had shifted. Across the way, Mrs. Langford lifted a phone, face tight as wire. Nia knew the call would crawl. If patrol came at all, it would come slow. Her phone buzzed, Reverend Hale's voice, rough with fatigue. They hit the church. Paint, slurs, smashed glass. Are you okay? I am. People are rattled. Tempers are quickening. We meet tonight, she said. We show everything. You sure? He asked. Wisdom might say wait. Wisdom's been ignored, Nia answered. Truth in the open. A pickup rolled by slow, 2 men staring, the same pair who'd mouthed ugliness at yesterday's diner. They circled 3 times before drifting off. Nia booked a rideshare, watched Darien leave, then walked, 8 blocks to the church on foot, collecting every scowl and whisper like evidence. Outside the corner store, an elderly white woman crossed herself as Nia passed, as if warding a storm. The church walls bloomed hatred, but sanctuary still breathed inside. Hale scrubbed paint, shoulders squared. They think this silences us. Like we haven't survived worse, he added, not stopping. Word moved through the town like current through wire. By dusk, pews filled. Black families, white allies, teachers, deacons, teens with backpacks. Up front, Earl Jennings sat ramrod straight, jaw clenched. Nia set her laptop at the pulpit, cables coiling. What you're about to watch is hard, she warned, voice steady. But truth is the only weapon we've got left. The uncut video rolled, angles from the store's cameras, the racial slurs unbleeped, the blows, Darien's voice cracking for his mother. The sound trembled through rafters. Someone sobbed in back. Lights came up to a silence that felt like held breath before thunder. Mrs. Langford rose, cheeks wet. My grandson is Darien's age, she said. It could be him. It could be any of ours. The room broke, anger, grief, determination unwinding. Neighbors finally naming what fear had long disguised. Hale moved through pews, converting heat into structure. Protest shifts, medic stations, legal hotlines, buddy systems for dispersal. Later, Nia parked by Brightmart and stared at that scraped patch of concrete, remembering. She heard echoes in the silence, laughs over pain, her son's small mama. The sodium lights stuttered and hummed. You're not just getting justice, she whispered to the empty lot. We're remaking the ground. A cruiser crawled past, spotlight brushing her windshield like a challenge. She didn't flinch. Let them watch. Let them tally minutes. They believed threats would muzzle her. They'd forgotten she knew how to bite. 3 days after the church gathering, Main Street swelled with bodies and cardboard signs, heat shimmering above asphalt. Justice for Darien ricocheted off brick. Organizers Hale had trained walked the line, handing water, calling de-escalations. Nia stood near the courthouse, eyes on formations. Riot helmets glinted despite a peaceful permit. Her phone rattled. Derek Lynn, voice ragged. We've got a breach. Cloud's gutted. Not just deletions, full corruption. Someone burned the whole server across proxies. Can you trace? Trying. This is professional. Spread across continents. Shouts spiked at the intersection. Police boxed the route. Batons rose. The crowd pressed back. No exit. I have to move, she told Derek, killing the call. She sprinted toward the choke point, phone up and recording. The first tear gas canister traced an arc and burst. Screams shredded order. Mrs. Langford coughed, folded. Nia dragged her under an awning, eyes blazing. Batons swung at retreating backs through fog. Her phone buzzed again. Tessa Moreland, breath hitching. They're raiding my place. 6 men, a paper I couldn't read. Smashing cameras, ripping drives. They're calling it stolen evidence. The line died mid-breath. Everything moved at once. Street chaos. Server wipe. Press silenced. One strategy. Overwhelm every front. Everywhere. An hour later, medics rinsed eyes at folding tables. Another call came. Hale arrested while trying to negotiate a dispersal corridor. Charge. Incitement. Nia drove hard to the station, only to meet Drennan's smirk through glass. Processing takes time, he said. Paperwork, you know. Her hands shook on the wheel. That night she headed for Atlanta, found Darien at Patricia's, eyes locked to broadcasts labeling elders rioters and teens thugs. They're saying Reverend Hale attacked someone, he choked. Everything we do gets twisted. He looked so tall and suddenly so young. Maybe we stop, Mom. Maybe nothing changes. She clocked the subtle repositioning, bicycle cops funneling crowds, shields edging forward, hands grazing batons. They're staging something, Nia muttered. Her phone rattled. Derek's voice crackled. Cloud mirrors nuked, not mere deletion, full corruption across multiple jump points. Source? Distributed. Someone seasoned. The street surged. Police closed both ends. Trace it? She pressed. Working. Whoever did this knows audits. A chant fractured into shouts. Helmets locked down. Lines advanced. A lieutenant lifted 2 fingers, signal understood by every baton. Nia's stomach turned cold. They're boxing families, she said, filming. The front line shoved. The rear line tightened. Panic tried to bloom. A flash, then the arc of a canister. It hissed and popped, cloud blooming mean and fast. Screams needled the air. Nia hauled a teen by his backpack, yanked an elder under an awning, eyes burning. Officers swung at backs, not threats. Masks on, medics yelled, voices snatched by wind. Her phone vibrated. Tessa's voice tore through static. They're in my place. 6 uniforms, paper I couldn't read. They're smashing cameras, gutting drives, calling it stolen evidence. A crash, then nothing. Nia stared at the dead screen. Rage clean and sharp. One script. Overwhelm everywhere. Server. Street. Press. In synchronized waves. Sirens braided with chant fragments. An hour later, a medic station. Milk jugs. Trembling hands. Another call. Reverend Hale detained for incitement after begging for exit lanes. Nia sped to the station. Drennan lounged behind glass. Processing slow, he smirked. Paperwork, you know. She watched the clock like it owed her hours. That evening, asphalt unspooled beneath her to Atlanta. She found Darien at Patricia's, eyes red, glued to talking heads warping reality into bite-sized lies. They're saying Reverend Hale swung first, he choked. They call us thugs. He swallowed, taller and suddenly small. Maybe we stop, Mom. Maybe nothing changes. She pulled him close, like when nightmares still woke him. Listen, she said, choosing precision. Power's comfortable. It fights to stay that way. Hopelessness is the point. It's a weapon. Movements always look impossible. Until their history class. We don't quit because they hit harder. They hit harder because we don't quit. After he slept, she slumped in the driveway, forehead on the wheel. The day replayed. Gas, raids, Cuffs, erasures. She rummaged for aspirin, fingers brushing something rigid. A USB, taped note in Derek's neat print. Emergency copy. Original video. Metadata. Offline. Stay safe. Her breath snagged in her throat. There it was, the full, uncut assault, preserved in a sliver of plastic they hadn't found. Derek had staged redundancy inside her redundancy. They thought they'd salted the earth. Roots still lived. She gripped the drive like a talisman and dialed. Tessa answered on the first vibration, voice raw, unbroken. They didn't get everything, Tessa whispered. I hid backups. We're going live, tonight, Nia said. A beat, then Tessa. Church basement. Hale gave me a key before they grabbed him. We've got tables, maps, power strips. Signal's rough. Workable. 1 hour. Nia grabbed Patricia's keys and hit the road. Mason Creek slept in patches as she ghosted through town in Patricia's Honda. Cruisers prowled shadows, but passed her by. The church rose dark against a salted sky. A warm rectangle glowed beneath. Tessa opened the side door, eye swollen, jaw set. They missed my travel kit and hotspot, she said, grinning crooked. The basement breathed coffee and adrenaline. Folding tables spanned with monitors, protest maps scabbed with checkpoints and safe houses. How many watch live? Nia asked, slotting the USB. Breaking stuff? A few thousand, Tessa said, hands typing. But the partial hit 500,000 before takedown. People are waiting for the whole. Nia framed the camera, steadied her jaw, recognized the woman in the lens, tired, flint-hard, mother and agent fused. Everything, she told Tessa. Every lie side by side with proof. Fingers hovered. Once we start, Tessa said, they'll come. Good, Nia answered. Let them. While the world is looking, red light. Comments materialized like sparks. Numbers climbed. 1,000, 5,000, 10,000. Chat sprinting faster than eyes could track. I'm Special Agent Nia Coulter, she said evenly. 3 weeks ago, my 17-year-old son stopped for a soda after practice. Tonight you will see the unedited truth and the forgeries they fed you. Angles rolled, entry, aisles, counter. Darien picking chips. Drennan and Rourke arriving with malice already loaded. Audio unmasked the slurs, the beatdown, the taser's insect whine. Now, their official version, Nia said, pairing frames. Note lighting, shadow vectors, timestamp fonts, fabricated resistance to cover premeditated force. This is fraud. Viewers detonated. 50,000, 100,000, higher. Shares accelerated like weather. She continued, scalpel precise. Rourke said Darien shoved him first. Here. Darien's hands visible, open. Chief Harlan claimed body cams failed. Watch. Manual deactivation before contact. They cited a robbery. Dispatch logs show no robbery reported that night. Upstairs, a door slammed. Boots thumped overhead. Nia kept narrating, spine straight. This isn't an isolated incident. Under Chief Harlan, patterns repeat. Targeted stops, corrupted files, planted evidence. Flashlights slashed the stairwell. Officers poured downward, breath harsh. Tessa's camera kept rolling. Nia did not blink away from the lens. They're here to cut the feed, she said calmly, as uniforms ringed the table. Download this footage, mirror it. The truth can't be buried if enough hands carry it. A glove lunged for the laptop. Press protection, Tessa barked. Hands off. Rourke grabbed Nia's arms, plastic cuffs biting. She stood anyway. You have the right to remain silent, he hissed, anger bright. I've been quiet long enough, she replied, turning to the camera. You can't bury truth, not anymore. The last frame captured Nia, chin high, as Tessa shouted the church address for arriving crews. Outside, sirens flared. Red-blue light painted cinderblock walls. Fluorescence buzzed in the interrogation room. Nia sat perfectly still, wrists cinched, her breath a metronome. Pain gathered at her shoulders, ignored. The door swung hard. Chief Charles Harlan swaggered in, badge catching the glare, cologne thick. He dropped a file like a gavel. Performance art, he smirked. Incitement, interference. She watched him without answering, measuring tells. Outside, voices thickened. Engines idled. Doors slammed. Harlan leaned closer. Where's that righteous anger now? He paced, boasting 30 years of handling troublemakers. But you, special, a Fed gone rogue. Your kind isn't mine, she said. First words since the cuffs. Voice balanced, lethal. You'll never work again, he hissed. Not security, not a mall kiosk, and your boy, he'll learn consequences. The front doors burst open. Command barked in the hallway. Boots thundered. Clean cadence. Federal. Internal affairs, a voice cut, cold steel. Everyone stay put. Harlan's smirk cracked. Fingers twitched toward his radio. The door flew wide. Agent Shaw entered with 2 internal investigations heavies. Jacket rumpled, eyes hard. Chief Harlan, Shaw said, flat and sharp. Step away from Agent Coulter. Harlan blustered. She compromised. What I see, Shaw cut in, is an illegally detained federal agent exposing systemic civil rights violations. Get those off her. He nodded, and a specialist snipped the cuffs. Nia rolled her shoulders, gaze never leaving Harlan. The footage passed 2 million in an hour, Shaw said. Attorney General called me personally. This building is now a federal scene. All officers in the Coulter assault are suspended. Outside, a chant rose, thick through glass. Justice for Darien! Helicopters chopped the morning. You can't just... Harlan tried. We can, Shaw said. And we are. 10 years of files are being seized. Every complaint, every edited clip. Nia stood, pins and needles chasing blood back to her fingers. Chief Harlan, an IIA agent said formally, your badge and weapon. His hands shook, unbuckling the belt. The badge clinked, no longer a shield. Shaw turned to Nia. You're clear to go. We owe you for slow response. In the hall, officers answered questions while hard drives walked into evidence boxes. Through glass, Nia spotted Lucas Train in a side room, head low as IIA scribbled notes. The front doors opened onto a river of people, morning sun gilding faces. Families hoisted kids on shoulders. Elders settled on folding chairs. Signs bloomed. Names, dates, demands. Tessa filmed, bandage bright under camera lights. Reverend Hale, newly released, led a hymn, voice worn, unbowed. Nia paused at the top step and felt the moment widen past her family into something larger, decades of quiet breaking open. It's starting, she whispered, sound nearly swallowed by the roar of a town learning its lungs. Inside, Shaw moved briskly. We'll need you to mark cases, he said, steering toward records. Patterns you flagged. Begin with Drennan and Rourke, Nia replied, stepping over coiled data lines. High priority. Anything with malfunction, transfer loss, or deleted. Body cam footage. 3 techs had workstations humming. Boxes opened like fossils. She pulled a thick file. Marcus Jenkins, 2019. Resisted, died in custody. Footage accidentally deleted. Shaw's jaw tightened. Priority stack, he said. We're building pattern and practice. Through a window, she saw Hale walking free, deputies avoiding his eyes. A few stepped back, shame or distance from a sinking ship. Tessa barreled through with visible press, camera live. CNN picked up the stream, she said. Every network's mirroring. They're calling it the Mason Creek Conspiracy. Nia allowed a thin smile. Get the evidence room, she said. The fire's arson. A commotion. Lucas emerging in cuffs. Bureau credentials, sealed in a bag. He reached for her with a look she'd once trusted. Nia, I can explain. Save it for your deposition, she said, cool as a clerk stamping a page. Betrayal didn't earn discussion. Radios crackled. Boots pounded toward the back. Through glass, she saw Harlan sprint with a heavy briefcase, eyes wild. He's running! Shaw barked. Teams scissored toward exits. Nia cut laterally, knowing the building's arteries. She slipped through the evidence room, out a side door into hot sun. Harlan's panicked breath announced him first. He barreled around a corner, nearly colliding with her. Going somewhere? She asked, hand near the holster she'd earned back. You don't understand, he spat. I kept order. This town needs me. It trusted you, she answered. You built fear instead. He looked behind, agents closing, then back at her. It wasn't personal. It became personal when your men battered my son. But you're right, it's also business. The business of justice. Agents swarmed. Harlan's hands rose. The briefcase dropped, bursting open. Cash bricks tumbled, sunlight bleaching paper to confession. They walked him through the station in cuffs. In his office, the shrine of framed plaques and grins, he collected small belongings under watch. The room shrank around him, suddenly ordinary, stripped of myth. You thought you were untouchable, Nia said quietly. You hurt families and believed paper would polish it clean. His shoulders sagged under the weight of a new gravity. Outside, news vans erected metal flowers, satellite dishes craning. Protesters swelled without spilling. Signs bright. Faces steady. Evidence teams ferried boxes like bees. 2 agents escorted Harlan to a car. His polished shoes scraped concrete. His badge flashed once before settling into an evidence bag. Inside, the hum turned purposeful. Cameras chirped. Scanners sang. Agent Coulter, a tech called. False ceiling in Harlan's office. Cash. A ladder. A dusty metal box. Paper ghosts stacked thick. Names she knew by ache. Marcus Jenkins, Jerome Wilson, Tyrell Brooks. Accidental deaths, she read, voice low. They kept hard copies. Shaw arrived, flipping pages. Old school paranoia, he said. Didn't trust servers? He skimmed, grim. This triple scope. Outside, Hale counseled neighbors. Calm, reaching where sirens had. Tessa waved from dispatch, screen filled with heat maps. Patrol patterns, 5 years, she said. Targeted neighborhoods, higher stops, more force, selective enforcement, documented by their own data. Nia leaned in. They weren't hiding it, she murmured. They were proud. They counted on nobody connecting dots. Another commotion by front desk. Lucas processed. He tried again. I never meant. Money was supposed to be once. She held his eyes until he dropped them. How many times did you preach integrity in squad cars? She asked. You chose. Stand in it. More black SUVs arrived. City Hall figures were ushered inside, faces careful. Rot had traveled. In evidence, technicians documented decade-old patterns, planted tinfoil packets, lifted cash, forged timestamps. Swaggering officers now sat quiet, wrists on knees, waiting for interviews they couldn't game. Found the missing body cams, a tech called. Not erased, buried on an encrypted server. Screens poured video, slurs, fists, planted weight. Some cases run 15 years, Shaw noted, finger on a ledger. Pre-Harlan. He didn't invent it, Nia said. He industrialized it. She held a file open to neat, poisonous columns. It's also organized. They thought daylight would never reach these shelves. Outside, witnesses gathered to simply stand and watch. Mothers with framed photos. Fathers holding folded programs from funerals. People carrying their own names on cardboard, so no one could call them thugs without answer. Tessa moved gently, collecting testimony with a small mic and steady nods. They're not scared anymore, she told Nia. The dam's cracked. Stories are pouring. In Harlan's office, they boxed awards, snapshots, and plaques, a pantomime of honor that had cost the town its breath. The briefcase lay yawning, stuffed with payoffs, dates of tampering, a roster of reliable hands. He kept ledgers, Shaw said, frowning. Detailed. Of course, Nia answered. Corruption loves paperwork to congratulate itself. Through the glass, more officers exited in cuffs. Not just the brutes, but the bystanders who signed, who lost files, who swallowed tongues. Blue silence cracked. You could hear honesty in the space left behind. It sounded like air returning to rooms that had been locked too long. The station, once a symbol of fear, was being rinsed with process. Lenses, chain of custody seals, logs. Nia lifted a framed handshake photo, Harlan with a governor, smiles polished bright. Exhibit A for reach, she said. Hang it in court. Outside, chants softened into conversations as people shifted from fury toward design. Weeks became a scaffolding of work. Statements, subpoenas, audits. 3 months later, beneath a clean October sun, Nia stood at a podium in front of a building that had been municipal gray and was now bright with murals. Children leaping, doves winging, a scale balanced by many hands. Faces filled the lawn. Mrs. Langford front row, first to mirror the clip. Earl Jennings beside her, chin high. Tessa off to the side, camera slung, never not taking notes. When they beat my son, Nia said, voice carrying, they misjudged more than a family. They misread a town. They thought we'd fold. We multiplied. They didn't expect you, she added, letting the pause hold. Heads nodded, remembering weeks of smoke and courage, night classes in rights, safety teams, court watch rosters. She swept an arm toward the building. This is more than new paint. It is a ledger of voices they tried to erase, now written in walls. Darien sat behind her, straight-backed in his Letterman jacket, eyes older, not hardened, depth replacing innocence. The Darien Coulter Youth Empowerment Center, she said, is a promise. We won't forget and we won't repeat. Our kids will have counsel, tutors, leadership training. What crisis proved we needed, available before crisis comes. She nodded toward Hale, collar a bit frayed, presence undimmed. He told me I was fighting a system, she said. He was right. He didn't tell me how many would fight with me. In the crowd stood former officers who testified, clerks who saved documents, neighbors who decided silence was too expensive. After-school programs, legal aid, grief counseling, civic apprenticeships, she said. All here, all year. Across the street, the repainted Bright Mart gleamed. Where asphalt had drunk blood, a small garden now softened edges. Ugly moments could be compost. New roots could reach what lies insisted was stone. The federal probe ran 20 years deep, she said. 53 wrongful convictions overturned. 32 officers indicted. 6 city officials removed. Numbers matter, but faces matter more. She looked out. Black, white, brown, young, old, knitted together by practice. The story is you refusing to look away and then choosing to move. Darien rose to stand beside her. Taller now, quieter in a way that sounded like resolve. Applause swelled. She handed him the ceremonial scissors. My son was their mistake, Nia said, voice catching. You were their miscalculation. They thought fear would mute us. Instead, it taught us how to harmonize. The ribbon stretched between pillars like a red horizon, a border between what was tolerated and what would never be again. Darien's grip was steady. This place carries my name, she said, but it belongs to every child needing light, every parent needing time, every neighbor deciding justice is a daily verb. The blades closed, fabric fluttered. Cheering rolled down the block. Kids sprinted to be first inside, their laughter ribboned through bright halls. Darien was swarmed by classmates and coaches, adults with soft eyes and firm handshakes. He returned smiles, not the boy on concrete, not anymore. A young man upright. Tessa sidled up, press lanyard flashing. Comment on the Civil Rights Task Force slot. Nia smiled. Mason Creek won't be last, she said. This pattern lives elsewhere. Now we have a map and a method. A breeze lifted applause into music. A local band tuned guitars. Hope sounded like sustained notes. Across the street, Earl leaned in his doorway, gave Nia a slow nod. Two people who chose the hard right over the easy safe. Sun dropped toward gold. Inside, walls caught laughter like bright marbles, rolling toward a future that refused to dim. The center's doors opened wide and stayed that way. Within, rooms breathed purpose, a legal clinic printing expungement packets, a quiet corner where a grandmother read to two toddlers, a computer lab humming with SAT practice, a gym where volunteers taught first aid. On a wall, a timeline, calls made, raids weathered, nights that felt longer than clocks could hold. Nia paused before a small frame, a still of Darien at age 10 holding a too big metal, grin gap-toothed. She pressed a forefinger to the glass lightly, a private benediction. Outside, tires whispered on asphalt, ordinary again. Inside, ordinary lifted, redefined as safety, as access, as people, standing unafraid. Reporters drifted for quotes. Council members practiced contrition. A handful of former officers arrived quiet, hands open, offering repairs. Accountability isn't a season, Nia told a mic. It's a rhythm. She watched teens sign up for debate club, for junior EMT night, for an internship with the city clerk's office. Later, she walked the block. The garden by Bright Mart held milkweed for monarchs. A plaque marked the night the town pivoted. A mother whispered to her son, pointing at the plaque, naming courage like a family recipe. Nights would still be long sometimes, but now people knew the road together. Back inside, Darien handed a ball to a little kid who stared like NBA stars had visited. You play? Darien asked. A tiny nod. Then this court's yours. Nia felt the room shift, one boy giving another permission to be ordinary and unafraid. It was the most radical sentence invented. Tessa filmed another stand-up. From conspiracy to consent decree, she said into the lens. From secrecy to spreadsheets. From whispered fear to public planning. Nia laughed softly. The revolution was paperwork and potlucks, consent decrees and cookouts, community audits and children sprinting free. Large words lived in small rooms. On the center's homepage, a banner rotated resources. Know your rights, youth council elections, report misconduct, college night. A quiet revolution clicked into place, link by link. Nia's phone buzzed. Another town, another pattern, she typed back. We'll share our playbook. Start with data, end with daylight. We'll stand alongside. On a chalkboard, a kid wrote in wobbly caps, "Truth is a team sport." Volunteers left out bottled water and fruit. Someone tuned a cheap piano. Somebody else brought hard candy for a dish. The center learned its heartbeat. Steady, generous, stubborn. It promised what the badge had failed to guarantee. That evening, Nia stood at the doorway, letting sunlight lean across the floorboards. She pictured the basement stream, the cuffs, the chant outside the station, the briefcase bursting cash, the boxes of old sins. She exhaled. We didn't win everything, she told Hale softly. We won tomorrow, and tomorrow matters. He nodded. Justice is patient bread, he said. You feed many with it. She smiled. They turned as a teen volunteer taught an elder to FaceTime a grandson. Laughter popped like corn. The work was not glamorous. It was glue. It fixed what fear had cracked and what lies had thinned. Derek arrived late, sheepish, holding a plant. For the lobby, he said. Takes neglect well. She hugged him. You saved the spine, she whispered. That drive, everything. He shook his head. You saved the town. He looked at the kids chasing a ball. Servers can hold truth. Only people can carry it. Near the mural, Darien traced his hand against painted wings, then stepped back, almost embarrassed. Looks good, he said. Looks like us, Nia answered. He nodded. Mom, can I help with Know Your S Rights Night? You already are, she said. But yes, sign up. Names on clipboards turned into roles, into rituals. She walked outside again. The repainted cruiser crawled by, different driver, eyes meeting hers without challenge. She returned the glance and a small nod. Accountability could coexist with safety. It just needed light and teeth. Behind her, children kept laughing. Ahead, other towns waited. Her phone buzzed again. Task Force Kickoff Monday, the text read. Briefing on 3 jurisdictions. She typed, Bring your maps. She tucked the phone away and looked at the mural. Scales balanced by many hands. That's the point, she said to no one, or to everyone. Many hands. She walked back in, doors propped open. Later, alone in her kitchen, she set down keys and listened to the quiet. Earned, not given. She poured water, stared at the rock that once shattered her window, now serving as a paperweight for a stack titled Policy Drafts. The threat had become a tool. It felt exactly right. She turned the rock, reading the faint, scrubbed paint. We warned you. She smiled without humor. You did, she said. We listened. Now hear us. On the fridge, a flyer announced Youth Council elections. On the table, Darien's homework lay open, civics. The future would never again be a surprise guest. Night settled easy. She texted Tessa. Rest. Tessa replied with a photo of her stitched laptop bag and a caption, We keep receipts. Derek sent a checksum, because of course he did. Hale sent a prayer, brief and exact. Earl sent, Coffee tomorrow? She answered all the 3 with a green heart. She scrolled briefly through comments. Some venom, much gratitude, plenty of logistics. One message stopped her. My brother, 2014, no camera then. Thank you. She typed, deleted, typed. We see him. She closed the phone gently. Some names would never sit in headlines. They still belonged in the ledger of repair. She checked windows and doors, ritual without paranoia. She set the alarm but left the porch light on. Signal and invitation. The house exhaled. Upstairs, Darien shifted. She pictured him small, then tall, then taller than fear. She let herself grieve, then let herself rest. Both were part of maintenance. Morning found her at the center early. She stocked the legal clinic printer with new toner, taped a sign at the door. Bring your questions. She watched a volunteer teach a teen to file a records request. The teen's face lit. Paperwork, a lantern. Bureaucracy, a staircase if shared. By noon, the gym echoed with squeaks and whistles. After-school mentors took attendance like sacred liturgy. In a side room, a therapist held space for 3 boys. In another, an elder explained redlining with patient diagrams. Outside, a food truck fed the line. Inside, the line fed a future. A mother asked for help with a landlord letter. A cousin of a man once arrested on loitering booked time with the clinic. A science teacher dropped off extra lab kits. More ordinary acts, more radical than speeches. Nia spent an hour scanning forms. Healing liked checkboxes, too. She paused at the memorial garden. Monarchs flickered over milkweed. A child read the plaque aloud, careful. Here, a town changed direction. What's direction? He asked. Where you're headed, his grandmother said. Who decides? We do together. Nia swallowed. Good answers belonged to more mouths than hers. Late afternoon sun glazed the street. Tessa shot a rap piece. From rage to routines. The center's calendar is the quiet headline. Nia waved her off camera. Get sleep, Tessa saluted. After these edits, reporters had learned the story didn't end with cuffs. It continued in committees and classrooms. Darien found Nia by the door. Coach says the starting spot's mine, he said, shy smile slipping through. He says I didn't run from anything. You didn't, she answered. They stood a moment in the sound of bouncing balls and homework chatter. Peace, rough-edged and real, like reclaimed wood. As dusk gathered, a patrol car rolled by slow and neutral. The officer lifted 2 fingers in a nod. Nia returned it. Accountability had rewritten the etiquette. Respect wasn't surrender, it was alignment. Above them, streetlights blinked on. Less threatening now, more like guardians that finally earned the name. Back at the podium for closing remarks, she kept it brief. We are ordinary, she said. We are relentless. Come back tomorrow. Bring someone. People laughed and promised. She believed them. Routine had become resistance, the kind that outlasts news cycles and outworks cynicism until both feel small. She locked up with Darien, then doubled back to leave the porch lights blazing. On the lawn, someone had left a note under a stone. My kid smiled today. First time in months. She pocketed it, a talisman truer than any headline. Tomorrow's list could be longer now. On the drive home, radio chatter mentioned external audits, trainings rewritten, new leadership vetted by community panels. The consent decree would be ink on paper soon, but culture had already started moving. She gripped the wheel lightly. Control felt different when you could also let go. Trust breathed. At home, she set down her keys by the rock-turned paperweight again. We warned you, the ghost letters whispered. We warn you back, she said softly, amused. We're organized now. She opened Darien's civics book, skimmed the chapter on federalism, smiled at a margin scribble. Power is practice. She stepped onto the porch, night warm, cicadas singing. Neighbors talked low along the sidewalk, comfortable again. A boy whizzed by on a scooter and waved. She waved back. The town felt like something it hadn't in a long time. Mutual. Enough eyes watching out, not watching over. Her phone buzzed one last time. A text from a mother 3 counties over. Our chief looks like yours. Can you come? Nia typed, Yes, we'll share everything. You'll lead it there. She added, Start with your elders and your kids. Start with a room and a list. Send. Inside, she stacked tomorrow's folders. Trainings, intake forms, grant proposals, schedules. She poured tea and stood by the window, listening to a town learn its lullaby again. She thought of basements and streams, cuffs and cash, chants and gardens. She felt the arc curve. It had taken all of them. Down the block, a cruiser idled, then eased forward. Not a threat anymore, just part of the background. Nia breathed in, out. This was only a beginning, but it was a beginning from higher ground. Behind her, the center's lights glowed like a lighthouse. Ahead, the road ran open. Lesson 1. Justice begins where fear ends. For those who have lived through America's turning decades, the marches, the headlines, the heartbreak, the story of Nia and her son Darien feels both new and familiar. You know the weight of a parent's fear when a child doesn't come home on time, and the deeper ache of watching a system built to protect instead inflict harm. Darien's stop at the Bright Mart began as an ordinary evening and ended as a wound on his small Georgia town's conscience. But for older Americans, that's a reminder of something we've learned through lifetimes of watching history repeat. Fear cannot be the language of law. When Nia walked into that police station, an FBI badge in one hand, her son's pain in the other, she carried generations of parents who had to be both protectors and truth-tellers. Her courage was not only a mother's instinct, it was the moral clarity that comes with age. We know, from Selma to Stone Mountain, that silence never saves us. Lesson 2. Change grows when ordinary people link arms. Those of us seasoned by time understand that no one reforms a town alone. The miracle wasn't just Nia's badge or Darian's survival. It was the way ordinary citizens stood up beside them. The store owner, Earl, the nurse, Angela, Reverend Hale, all found their voices when it mattered most. That's the part we older Americans recognize. True change begins when neighbors stop whispering and start acting. And when it came, it wasn't in the noise of revenge, but in the quiet work of rebuilding. A youth center named for a boy who dared to live, a community that refused to forget, and a nation reminded that justice is not charity, it's maintenance. Reflection. What we leave behind. At 65, 70, or beyond, we've learned that reform is a long road with no shortcuts. The story of Nia and Darien isn't only about race or law, it's about what kind of America we leave for the next generation. We can't rewrite yesterday, but we can still sign our names on tomorrow's promise. That truth, when carried together, outlives the hands that hold it. Friends, after witnessing Nia and Darian's journey, justice fought for, truth revealed, and a community reborn, I'd love to hear from you. Do you believe that ordinary citizens, working together, can truly reform systems that have failed for decades? Or does real change require starting over from scratch? Think about the moments in your own life when you saw courage spark change, large or small. Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's keep this conversation alive. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss tomorrow's powerful chapter of Justice for Darien.